So I've had the honor of knowing, privilege of knowing Judge Kavanuagh for a number of years. We worked in the Bush administration together, and I can tell you on all three of those areas, which is what I think should be the way in which senators are viewing him, he scores very, very, very high. Very high. And so we had a good discussion on a whole host of issues in there. One of the things that is really important to Alaskans, my constituents, is an area where he's been a leader, and that is with regard to a healthy skepticism with regard to the powers of federal agencies when they don't have statutory authority to take action. This is a really big issue, sounds technical. It's a huge issue in Alaska, similar to the Second Amendment. I actually have been reading a lot of his cases. I've followed his career because I've known him, as I mentioned. So I've been reading his cases previously, but I actually read his dissent in the Heller case. That's the Second Amendment case, a very important case. Reread that. We had a long discussion about that today. But that's also a really important issue in Alaska. Strong views with regard to the Second Amendment. And he's been a leader on that. There's no doubt about it. And then we talked about Alaska-specific federal laws. We're a state where there's actually a lot of legislation that comes out of this body that is specifically focused on Alaska. Now, of course, you don't expect a D.C. Circuit judge to know a lot about those laws. Most of that goes through the Ninth Circuit. But I just wanted to highlight that to him as, hey, we are a state where this body writes huge laws, like what we call a NILCA, and then federal agencies try to push the limits. And that's not appropriate in my view, so I gave him a heads up on that. And but I think it was a very constructive meeting. Again, I think he meets all the qualifications of what we as a Senate should be looking for in terms of the confirmation process. And I plan on supporting Judge Kavanuagh as a next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
Did you have any advice to offer him?
No, I didn't offer advice. I talked a lot about what, you know, matters to other senators, what my constituents care about. But again, these are areas where he's already been a leader. I mean, if you look at his views on Chevron, for example, if you look at his views, there was actually a New York Times article today that talked about how, with regard to federal agencies like the EPA, he is very exacting, saying if you don't have authority from the Congress to act, from the Congress, then we are going to be skeptical of your power to act. And I actually agree with that. I think that's the way the law and the Constitution are written, and the separation of powers are supposed to work in our constitutional republic. So I think in a lot of the areas that matter, certainly to me, other senators, to Alaskans, he's already been a leader, as I mentioned, the Second Amendment, and the whole issue of looking at the law and the Constitution as written. I think that's really important.